This is what's being taught in schools. If this is not suitable to talk about with a group of adults, how can it possibly be suitable to talk about in schools?
Oh my God, guys. I just got this clip the other day and I decided to show it to you to let you know what the government, the politicians, are doing to your children as we speak. And the key thing to understand, that was a Scottish guy there calling out the stuff that they're actually teaching our children, right? Pornography and all kinds of filth, you know. But the key thing is it comes down from the top. So our politicians and our teachers, they couldn't think up this sickness themselves, right? It's ridiculous. Of course they wouldn't. They're part of our community in a sense. But the globalists, right, the globalist banksters, through all Rockefeller's foundations and the NGOs they fund, all the way through the UN they own and the EU, that's where they get all the documents and the guidance. So the UN is producing all of the documentation which advises and leads our politicians and our school authorities. So it's coming from the top like everything else. So that's the thing you need to know. But the key thing is to protect your children. Talk to them, discuss what they're being told at school. They won't be giving you these materials at home. These are kept within the school, because if you want an indoctrination camp, right, to destroy children's minds and break up society, you need to do it carefully behind the scenes. But now you're going to get informed. So have a look at the rest of the video of this Scottish whistleblower and just see what you think.
Just to go through a few of the things very, very quickly. I mean, right at the beginning of primary school, teaching that sex is assigned at birth and gender is a subjective factor. I think that's a very dangerous and confusing message for young people, and yet that's what's delivered to all children in Scottish schools. The sex education materials, I'm sorry to have to talk about these things, but this is what is being taught in schools. Masturbation is positively promoted in schools. In high schools, licking the anus.
Remember that we are going live out here. This is
okay. If this this is what's being taught in schools. If this is not suitable to talk about with a group of adults, how can it possibly be suitable to talk about in schools? Yes, on the internet. Yeah, that's fine. Right. So to continue, I'm not going to be stopped. So that's presented as a perfectly valid sexual practice. Anal sex is illustrated by a video of a banana being dipped into Nutella and then withdrawn. Pornography, Right, pornography. No, I'm going to say here, this is what's being taught in schools. Pornography is not just taught about, it is positively promoted in these materials. It is positively promoted as something beneficial and helpful. Different genres of pornography are also recommended to pupils. Such as, again, my question very soon.
Please.
I'm just referring to the resources. Mr. Swinney says he's watched them. I'm just pointing out what's in them. For example, it's recommended that pupils explore, for example, facial pornography, which involves ejaculation onto the face. I think it's disgusting. It talks about... Okay, what I'm talking about is what's being taught in schools. I am outlining the contents of the Scottish Government Sex Education Resources. That's what I have done. I will now ask my question. My question to Mr. Swinney, these materials are not educational, they're corrupting of children. And my question is, having heard some of the detail of the content, I now invite you to re-endorse them, reaffirm your endorsement of them as you did earlier on.
Nasty, eh? Well, if you're wondering what the answer was, the authorities came up with some kind of a muddled answer afterwards, saying that this had been approved and that young people needed blah, 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 but complete nonsense, of course. So it's completely sick, but this is what comes down from the top. But now you know, make sure if you don't have young kids yourself, let your children know if they have kids in school. Talk about this, share it, and let people know what's going on. That's what they hate, right? So the next clip was one I did last year. I think it was for X, and it shows a teacher's body teaching teachers how to teach children in gender stuff. Now this is nuts. So I'm going to leave in the original video in the next clip and my commentary, and I'll catch you on the far side. I was sent a very interesting short animated video the other day, and it's a training aid for teachers, and it comes from the Teachers Union. So as a father of 5 children and as a manager of people for a couple of decades, I have some thoughts on this kind of thing. But anyway, we'll play it, and I'll stop now and then to give my input.
At a parent-teacher meeting, a mother told me that her child, who we called Lucy, identified as a boy and wished to be called Liam. After this, I set about preparing the class for Liam's social transition.
To be honest, the first thing that strikes me is the unsettling kind of optics of this cartoon, especially the eyes. Kind of reminds me of that film Coraline.
I taught lessons investigating and challenging gender stereotypes, and using the book Introducing Teddy, explained that some people don't identify with the gender they're assigned at birth.
That is true. Some people don't identify with the gender they were assigned at birth, i.e. their biological, actual gender. I believe it's called gender dysphoria, and as far as I'm aware, it's an extremely rare phenomenon or condition. But, maybe I'll get hold of the Teddy book and educate myself further.
I said, Tilly wasn't happy because everyone saw her as a boy, but she knew she was really a girl.
She knew she was really a girl. These are very young kids being portrayed in this video, so knowing you're a girl when you're biologically a male, that's pretty strong stuff to come from a teacher to a class of very young children. Shouldn't they really bring in, professionals for this kind of advanced psychological intervention?
My pupil Ray asked, so boys can change into girls? And then Julie chimed in, and girls can change into boys? Yes, I said.
Yes, a teacher with no training in these matters said to kids who were asking that question. How can a teacher say that to very young kids when biologically the situation is quite clear and quite complex in its psychological sides? This is very interesting.
Sometimes, while the doctor says a baby is a boy, as that baby grows up, they feel inside that they're not a boy.
Yes, this happens, and it has always happened, for sure. But either it's a phase, or it would come under the category, I guess, of gender dysphoria, which would require a longer conversation with professionals.
While they might have a boy's name, like Tilly, they know they aren't a boy.
Again, there's that phrase, know, that a very young child would know that they are not a boy. Even if that is the biological reality, they know otherwise. So this strikes me very much as the kind of thing we would do in management, where we were kind of manipulating people and using certain phraseology to push a certain idea or concept onto someone. But of course we were dealing with adults, not with young kids.
And want to change their name. The same can happen for a girl. By making those changes, the person feels happier and more like themselves.
I'm delighted with the happiness, but the really big thing that changed was a teacher with no credentials, apparently in biology or reality, made a statement multiple times to a class of kids saying that people knew they were not, and that they can actually change fundamental scientific realities. So that's a big change.
Some people who experience this might use the word transgender to describe themselves. Once the pupils understood the concept, and once Liam and his mum were happy, I helped him tell the class. Everyone, do you remember last week we read about Tilly? Everyone replied, yes. Well, we're very lucky to know a person like that, and they're even in our class. The person we've been calling Lucy is really a boy.
Is really a boy. Again, this teacher tells a bunch of young children an apparent fact that this biological girl is really a boy. Do you think the teacher is massively going beyond his remit?
And is now ready to tell us all. Liam told the class. I've always felt like a boy.
Well, at least the kid is honest. I've always felt like a boy. Much more honest than the teacher.
My new name is Liam.
Fair play to you, Liam. Good name.
So when I call the ruller, I'll be calling out Liam McCarthy. And we will all call him Liam, won't we? The whole class agreed. Yes, teacher.
Well, they're hardly going to cause some trouble with this particular topic these days, right?
Then Paul asked, Teacher, is Liam still sitting at our table?
Well, Paul, given it's a mixed class, that wasn't a very smart question, was it?
I laughed and replied, yes, nothing has changed except Liam's name. And nothing did change, except that Liam seemed much happier in school. A few weeks later, I introduced the pupils to non-binary identity.
You did you? And how is this in your remit? These are young kids in this cartoon, far as I can tell.
Where people don't identify with being either a boy or a girl. The most important element of any lesson on gender identity is that we put the emphasis on respecting everyone, regardless of gender identity or expression.
I absolutely concur. We always respect people, regardless of their condition, their perception, how they see themselves, how they want to live in the world, within the law. But the rest of that video? The rest of that video is, of course, insane. But that's what they're teaching the kids, you know. So we know now the globalist kind of bankster crew who own a lot of the institutions, and this madness is coming largely from the UN and other NGOs that are well funded, right? This is what they love. They love pervy stuff. Weird stuff that goes against science and solidity and logic. You know, that's what you want to put in the kids, because the kids, of course, are more impressionable. So if you feed their little heads full of utter nonsense, right, you get an even bang for your buck in ruining society and weakening society. So these strategies we've known for a long time, and you can read Tragedy and Hope if you want more detail on who's really driving it. Right? But in any case, there you have it. I'm going to wrap it up here just to let people know my weight loss app, AI driven, full of my 15 years of science and guidance on successful weight loss, and it includes a lot of psychology, because that's the biggest thing actually that makes people fail in weight loss and gaining health, is the psychology and the habit forming. But there's great tools to enhance that in yourself or others you know who may benefit. So it's studio.com/Ivor/weight loss, and the app there is pretty cheap and you'll get incredible results. I'm absolutely certain of it, because I put everything in, all of my material, tips, tricks, and there's also an AI coach that you can ask any questions and it'll essentially answer in my voice from my material and my knowledge, which I like to think is the best in the business. So anyway, go to studio.com. It's available now not just on Apple, it's also now for the last few weeks available on Android and also web-based. And I'll be doing more of these apps for mental strength, resilience, critical thinking, and other aspects to enhance ourselves against the globalists in the near future. Thank you.